Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This is a story from 11 years ago. It was late 2007 and I had just gotten a part-time job offer in your neighborhood electronics, and now defunct store named RS. I was a college kid, and about a few months before, I had knee surgery, which forced me to quit my previous part-time job. So when I joined RS, I was told that aside from extremely rare circumstances of when I may have to fetch a thing or two from the back room or basement, my job was to sell. I was a sales associate / customer assistant. We had one or two stock persons whose sole job was to stock the shelf, fetch the merchandise, and so on. Then the store management, those are salaried employees. For us, the sales associates, we would get paid by the hour, and it was absolutely the minimum wage. But if you sell RS branded accessories, then we will get something like maybe 5% of the selling price. When we sold brand new cell phones, we will get $20 or $25 per new account, $10 for an additional line on that. And if we relocated the contract for another 2 years, we will get $10 for that account. Can be one line or can be more than one. This extra parentage was called spiff. The stock person is supposed to be paid a little bit more than the minimum salaries, and that's about it. All of us were trained weekly to sell add-ons, and the better seller you are, the more money you can make. When I joined the store, I was required to spend my own money to buy the color combination clothes that the corporate office decided for the season. One time it was a red shirt and black pants. Another time it was a black shirt and gray pants. And since your clothes have to be presentable, that means buy 2 of each at least with your own money. Few days after I joined, I got to know that the stock person is a friend / relative of the manager. So he gets to sit down in the back room for training while we have to fetch the merchandise that we sell. As I mentioned earlier, I had knee surgery not even 2 months earlier, and this store's back room had a cage that only contained cell phones and GPS, while TV, stereo, speakers, and other accessories were in the basement. If we sell TV or any big-ticket item, we get nothing. But if we sell batteries for that remote, power strip, antenna, and so on, we get about 5%. So since our stock person was occupied, we had to get those items from the basement. As you can imagine, it was not the most pleasant thing to do with a still bandaged leg. Not to mention, that was not in the sales associate's job description. Our manager, let's call her Karen, made a new rule. Since we're clearly making a lot more money as sales associates than a stock person, now we have to share our spiff equally with the stock person on duty. While we were selling, and when we asked the stock person to get us the item, they would tell us to get it ourselves. We still had to do so to be able to complete the transaction and not fight in front of the customer. And all while we're giving them the equal share of our spiff. Nice. Now, whenever new stock deliveries are made, it is generally the management team, salaried person, and the stock person's job to stock them up or place them in the basement or in the cage. But Karen had better ideas. She told us, if you're going to work here, then you will have to replenish the entire store at the end of the day. If the delivery trucks come, you have to sort them and place them in the stock room yourself, or else you'll be fired. Now, keep in mind that I'm still a full-time college student and also have family responsibilities to attend to, and my part-time job was supposed to be no more than 20 hours. She made me come at 4 a.m. and sign out at 8 p.m. for 5 days. Signing out doesn't mean you are done. It means you will only get paid for the time of 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then you must tidy up the place, restock the shelf, vacuum, throw the trash, and if the deliveries are coming, it was 2 days a week at least. Boy, it's your lucky day. Because if the truck comes after 10 p.m., you get all the joy and happiness of taking care of it, sometimes beyond 1 a.m. in the morning. When it was during Black Fridays, I remember leaving the place at 5:30 a.m., came in at 4 p.m. the day before, worked until 8 p.m., and then stock up for Black Friday sale, only to come back 2.5 hours later at 8 a.m. and work until 1 a.m. the next day. That day, she instituted a new rule only for that Black Friday: only sell big-ticket items to boost the store's numbers. A contest was going on from the corporate office. The store manager was the highest sales per district would get a huge bonus and some other perks. She expressly told us not to sell any accessories, although that was what we made our money on. Now, even on a Black Friday sale, if you sell a TV, someone would want batteries or antennas for it, right? I ended up accumulating lots of money, which was supposed to be my spiff. And besides, I was extremely good at selling. And there were times when someone came in for just 2 AA batteries only, and I ended up selling him about 4K worth of merchandise. But she ended up denying all of us that spiff, since she told us not to sell that and only sell big-ticket items. She only paid us for 8 hours worth of work per person. This kept on going for a while. When Karen would go have extended lunch, had to maintain a patty/manicure, hair appointments, clothes shopping, and so on for professional outlook and betterment of the business. While in business hours, phones from the cage, which she and only the shift manager would have keys to, would go missing. Right before my first midterm exam, my uncle had a heart attack and I had to fly to Montreal for 72 hours to see him. Of course, I let Karen know. The whole time I was in Montreal, I couldn't sleep for a second, and the day I came back, our flight landed at 10 a.m. My exam was from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. I had told her that I won't work that day since I would have exams right after I land. I run to my college to take my exam while I get calls after calls from her that I need to show up to work that day since the stock person is sick and I had to help with the delivery truck, or else I am fired. I finish my exam at 3 p.m., run to the store before 4 p.m., get dressed and work till 8 p.m. That day I worked until 12:30 a.m. midnight. At this point, I have not slept for more than 80 hours. Okay, maybe slept an hour or two in between, but you can understand when you're visiting a relative who is having an emergency surgery, how much sleep you can get. And I was dying to sleep. That job is the reason I got a Red Bull and 5-hour energy drink addiction. All while I had a vicious and painful popped ear from a flight that lasted for more than 3 days. That was the last straw. The next day I slept for more than 12 hours. Go to work, and the following day someone called the state labor department with all these allegations of forced labor, no pay, stolen items, and so on. The Department of Labor then contacts the RS corporate office, and 2 days later, I see Karen crying hysterically and packing her stuff. Apparently, the corporate office, instead of confronting the situation, chose to fire her. And Karen is asking us to make calls and write letters on her behalf to say that those allegations are not true. Her friend, the stock person, told her in the face, "Told you to tone it down with your employees, but you wouldn't listen." And she leaves. Months or 2 later, a guy walks in, says he's a manager of some bigger electronics store, and someone, Karen of course, just joined his store as an assistant manager. He is just curious and took it upon himself to find out how good she was as a manager. I bought him coffee that day and spent about half an hour with him in the nearest donuts place. After that, I heard she was trying to get unemployment. After that, we had a chilled up manager who was an awesome person. Loved him. But a month or 2 later, I found a job, while still in college, in my field and ran to it. And then so many are asking why, and others accept a bad fate so long. We were young and dumb. I'm a first-generation immigrant American, college kid trying to keep a part-time job right when the US economy was taking a nosedive. Didn't really know better. So some backstory first. I work at a large grocery store chain. As someone who stocks groceries, replaces items that have been left or returned throughout the day, and various other chores around the store. It's a pretty small store, so most of the employees can do almost all of the tasks. So this particular night, I was putting away a cart of items that customers decided they didn't want, overstock, or were damaged. There was a separate area where damaged items went, obviously. Now, I should preface this with the fact that I am not completely deaf. I can faintly hear things like slamming doors, loud phones, and ringtones, and some things like that. Though I cannot hear voices at all, even loud yelling. While I'm deaf, I know sign language. Have a large pin and lanyard that I wear that informs people that I'm in fact deaf. In addition to this, I have a small notebook that has a variety of pre-written responses to questions, sort of like flashcards. Though communication is difficult sometimes, I try my best to make things work, and I'm very prepared. Most people are understanding, work with me, and we get through the conversation. Some kind people even sign with me. That always makes me smile. I am pretty young and don't look like the typical hearing impaired person, so when people sometimes get a little grumpy because I don't respond right away, they are very apologetic. Not this time, this is where the story gets good. So I am mulling along one evening and decided to get an early start on the overstock from the day, which was filling a shopping cart to the max. Since this was earlier than I normally began, there was more people still in the store as opposed to when I usually started. No big deal. I started anyway. About half a shopping cart later, I'm in the paper towels section when I feel someone roughly poke me in the shoulder. I jump and turn around startled to see this lady. She's taller than me and I'm no slouch. I'm 6 feet tall. She is very thin, probably mid-50s, frizzy blonde hair only held back by a bright red hat atop her head. This was back in September of 2020, and of course she doesn't have a mask on. She begins to what I assume was yell, judging by the aggressive look on her face, and I begin to point to my lanyard and ears, trying to communicate that I cannot hear her. According to the nice customer, who I will introduce in a moment, she was saying things like, "I am talking to you, I've been trying to get your attention for 5 minutes," and so on. She then takes a step forward and grabs my lanyard, yanking it violently, and it gets unsnapped from around my neck. She throws it to the ground, and at this point I am very nervous and beginning to panic. I try to actually say I can't hear, but I am not sure how it came out, as I've never actually heard my own voice. My partner says it sounds very cute, however. It is at this point the nice customer enters the picture. I see him round the corner, a 30-something-year-old man, I assume, rounds the aisle, and walks up to Karen, asking what the problem was. This is all what he wrote down for me, saying what he said after the incident. He then looks over to me and I frantically point to the pin on my mask and grab my notebook and scribble down, "I am deaf and I don't know why she's yelling at me." The customer turns to Karen and they exchange some words. Things like, "Can't you see he's deaf? Why are you yelling at a kid like that?" And responses like, "He's not deaf. He's just ignoring me because he's lazy." This goes on for a few minutes and I finally begin to cry, as this has caused a scene with people starting to surround us. It finally attracted the attention of my two managers, a store manager and the regional/district manager. The store manager walks up to me while the regional manager walks to the customer and Karen, who have now really started shouting at each other. The store manager knows sign language and asks me if I'm alright. I say I am and wipe the tears from my face and grab my lanyard from the ground. He then tells me to grab my things and wait for her in the employee break room. About 15 minutes later, both managers walked in with a police officer and Karen had been arrested. The store manager explained to me in sign language that Karen had been arrested for third-degree assault and the officer needed a written statement and asked if I wanted to press charges. I happily say yes and give my statement. The nice customer stuck around and I wrote him a thank you note. The store manager also gave him a gift card for being an upstanding citizen. That was by far the worst experience I've ever had with a customer. But I'm thankful that awesome people like the nice customer and both my managers exist. Also, Karen got sentenced to a few months in jail, probation, and was fined a hefty amount. I honestly hope it destroys her life. This story belongs to my beautiful wife, but since it's from many decades ago, from a time before we knew each other, we will here call her Classy Flight Attendant. The setup. Classy Flight Attendant is, at this time, one of the top-tier flight attendants for her country's national airline. Of course, as with any job, you meet all kinds at work. Today's story concerns one particular pilot who we will call Captain Ricardo. Captain Ricardo likes things the way he likes them. He wants all the flight attendants and his flight crew to be attractive women. He doesn't think men should be flight attendants. He doesn't think ugly by his definition, people should be flight attendants. He's not ashamed to mock or ridicule people who he feels have no business in a job. Of course, no matter how Captain Ricardo wants things, the staffing of the entire airline does not revolve around his wishes. He gets the crew he gets, like it or not. The crime. On the occasion in question, one of the flight attendants assigned to his crew is so spectacularly unattractive to him that he picks up the intercom on the plane while the crew is preparing the flight and asks who thought that she would ever be attractive enough to fly for him. He follows that with all sorts of jeers and name-calling, finally going so far as to order security to physically remove her from the plane. She departs in tears and does not fly with him that day. Well, this is just too much. When a number of flight attendants get together later, they discuss Captain Ricardo. He needs to be reminded how much he relies on his flight crew. They are not there just to please his ego. They serve an important function in the operation of the plane and the airline. Classy flight attendant is there and notes that she will be on a long flight with Captain Ricardo in a couple of days. She knows what needs to be done, but tells the other ladies that the less they know, the better. The revenge. On the day of that flight, she arrives early and seeks assignment to the cockpit. On long flights on a jumbo jet, there is one flight attendant who attends only to the cabin crew, the pilot, co-pilot, and engineer, so that they can focus on successfully executing the flight. As per normal, Captain Ricardo will only allow an attractive female flight attendant to serve in that function. Classy flight attendant is classy enough for him and is easily accepted. After they've been in the air a while, the cockpit asks for food, which she happily prepares for them. She has a special ingredient for Captain Ricardo's meal. While she cannot know in advance what the main dish provided today will be, it is known that Captain Ricardo always wants beans and rice with every meal, and this meal is no exception. So she grates chocolate-flavored laxative into Captain Ricardo's beans and mixes it in. She knows he only needs a dose or two to do the trick, but figures the flavor will be off. So he won't eat much and wants to make sure he gets a dose or two. So, in the whole box goes. This is where it all goes wrong. Too much revenge? He notices, but does not suspect. He likes the flavor. He even comments while enjoying his meal that it has such a particularly good flavor. Classy flight attendant smiles and then watches in horror as he downs the plate. She had no contingency plan for this. Things don't take long. About 20 minutes later, he starts to look a little green around the gills, and then run to the restroom, and then again. But it doesn't stop. At a certain point, he stops running back and forth and remains in the restroom, leaving the flying of the plane to the co-pilot. But now, several hours later, the classy flight attendant is getting really worried. She has overplayed her hand. It turns out this co-pilot is not rated to land this plane. There is only one person on board who is, and as they are approaching their destination, that person has not left the restroom for an hour or two. If the co-pilot is forced to land, it will easily result in a crash landing or an overshoot of the runway. He will come in too fast and not hit the runway soon enough, plowing through whatever he hits before being able to stop. The plane will be destroyed, people will be injured and possibly killed. People and property on the ground isn't safe either. For all she knows, Captain Ricardo is already dead in the bathroom. She is seriously concerned about all the potential repercussions. The last half hour of the flight is horror compounded with guilt for the classy flight attendant. At the key moment, Captain Ricardo re-emerges and heroically brings the plane in for successful landing, regardless of the damage done to his dignity and the captain's chair. He may have treated his flight crews poorly, but he's a first-rate pilot. Paramedics remove him in a stretcher from the plane before the passengers are disembarked. He spent several days in the hospital recovering. The aftermath. On his return to work, he is much more humble and no longer verbally abusive. He's a much better captain to work with. It is unclear if any effort was ever made to investigate the matter. It is suspected that those who may have been charged with such an investigation shared a similarly negative opinion of the captain's previous behavior and felt like he had it coming. The other flight attendants and some other supervisors have no doubt about what happened, although it was not generally known by them how close the flight had come to being a complete disaster. This was a little over 10 years ago in my early 20s, but it's still one of my favorite stories of karma that suited well to my revenge. As a teenager, I got a part-time job as a lifeguard at the biggest pool in the city, if not the province. I was a hard worker, and over the years I had every certification I could get. Over the summers, I'd often work on nearby beaches. One year, these rural beaches had a really hard time keeping staff, so they had asked people from my pool to work there. It just so happened my parents had a cottage on one of the beaches, and I said, "Hey, I'll be interested in working at a middle-of-nowhere beach. It will be peaceful, and I can come home on weekends if I want." I took the job about 4 hours away from home for a 10-week contract. I was a lifeguard instructor trainer. I certify people to teach other people how to train lifeguards. At the time of this story, I was one of the youngest to have this certification. Most of my co-workers were going into their second year of working on this beach, and frankly, second year of being a lifeguard. It was going to be my first year working in this area. Basically, the head manager told me, "Look, it is your first time working out here. We need someone with your experience. We can give you a beach captain position, management on paper, but we are willing to pay you at a beach captain rate, plus extra for your certifications. And you can fill in as beach captain on days when the others can't. As far as we're concerned, you're an alternate. We just don't want to upset the locals more than we need to. Be advised though, you may need to work at a few other beaches out around there." More pay, fewer responsibilities? Yeah, I guess I can take this one for the team. Here's what you need to know about this place. The area is a naturally beautiful place. Now, this is one of the best drives on a continent. One of the top 10 islands in the world. Mountains to the left, endless ocean to the right, beaches everywhere. It is also one of the poorest parts of the country. And some communities have a mob mentality when outsiders come to work here. For the most part, my co-workers liked me and appreciated my experience, except for the one beach captain we will call Maggie. Everyone employed goes to a training camp retreat. District managers go for 5 days, beach captains go for 4 days, and general staff go for 3 days. I was only asked to show up for the general staff, did my thing, met my new co-workers, and Maggie rubbed me the wrong way and started calling me rookie, and then she left. Turns out she was graduating high school and had prom to attend. She didn't want to do the rest of the training because of all the after-prom parties. Okay, that's weird. I'm waking up at 7 a.m. to do a 10-kilometer run with everyone before breakfast, and you passed out after a night of drinking? I'm just annoyed, but if I could pull it off, I might do the same. No biggie. How could she pull off getting out of mandatory training, you ask? She's a family legacy. Once upon a time, her mom was a beach captain and now runs the local pool in the middle of nowhere town. If you were certified as a lifeguard around there, you had to go through her. Maggie's sister was a beach captain, then district manager, and recently retired from the service and went to nursing school. Maggie was the next in line to do this. She was going to be awarded a scholarship through the lifeguard service for her school of choice. At the end of the summer, there is an AGM where they make all these announcements, but there was a well-known secret. Day 1 of the summer on the beach starts. We're setting up the beach, it's a half day, not many patrons around, and we organize first aid kits, equipment, set up our hut, test the phones and so on. The district manager, a local, arrives to inspect everything. He's happy, he's a buddy of mine, and as we were the last stop of his beaches to inspect, he hangs out with us. Day's up and Maggie's mother shows up Days up, and Maggie's mother shows up and tells her to start packing for the swimming instructor symposium. Turns out Maggie is leaving tomorrow for the Dominican Republic on her post dime for 3 whole weeks. That's 30% of the lifeguard season. She actually tells me, "See you in 3 weeks, rookie," and leaves. The district manager and I drop our jaws and wonder what just happened. Why is this only coming out now? I help him out, we sit down and come up with a new schedule for the next 3 weeks. My supervisor filled in some of her shifts, and we even worked together a few times. Now it looks like I have to be a beach captain with the actual new guards. At least 3 weeks. It was more work for me, but honestly, Maggie's departure was a blessing. I've hardly met her, but I doubt we're going to get along. She rubs me the wrong way. Those 3 weeks without her, I got a great feng shui, zen groove, and inner harmony thing going on. It was the healthiest mentally and physically I've been in my life. Of course, the lack of negative emotions directed towards me would not last. It ended the day Maggie returned literally within the first hour of us working together. Maggie, my beach captain, started our day together by berating me in front of her friends. "Hey rookie, do you even know how to do CPR? I was watching you at training camp and you were doing it wrong. I need you to show me how to do it right now." "You want me to show you how to do CPR? Sure, no problem. You could ask nicer, but whatever. I'll put up with this. We have to practice so much every day anyway." Then she drops this bit of information while I practice incorrectly. "If you don't have anything under them, you'll dig a hole in the sand." "Maggie, this doesn't make sense, but whatever. It's not like I'm an instructor in this or anything, or have basic knowledge of physics. Pushing on sand isn't the same thing as digging." The whole day consisted of Maggie calling me rookie and being pointlessly rude in her critiques of my life-saving skills. Of course, it wouldn't be a good work story unless someone stole someone's lunch. "Hey Maggie, is that my lunch in your mouth right now?" "Oh, was that your lunchbox?" "Well, it wasn't your lunchbox, was it?" I'm the beach captain. You can't talk to me like that." This will become our daily routine on our shifts together. I began packing a decoy lunch with half-eaten items or empty wrappers. This gave me the opportunity to hide/eat my real lunch without her bothering me. By week 4, it's our mid-season evaluation. There's 2 parts, physical evaluation and professional evaluation. District manager does the physical and it's straightforward. All employees show up at the beach before it opens. You run 4K, swim 600 meters, paddle 2K, and so on. Apparently, I embarrassed Maggie. I was the most improved from the start of the season to the end of the season. I was already in the top 25%, and now I was physically one of the top 5%. Maggie, however, got worse. A lot worse. She was mediocre, but in the general top 50%. I was now one of the worst physical guards, bottom 10%. All her times were substantially lower. Luckily for her, it's not all physical. There is still the professional evaluation. The beach captain who works with me the most writes up your evaluation. You get a score out of 50, 10 5-point characteristics, punctual, customer service, safety, and so on. You get graded, then short notes are written to explain your score. At the bottom, there is a recommendation section on what to do/work on. One of the other beach captains who tolerated Maggie wrote her evaluation, and it wasn't all bad. Of course, Maggie was the one who wrote my evaluation despite only working with me a few times. I don't get to see it, which is normal, and when it's done she passes it to the boss once it's handed in. The district manager pulls Maggie and I aside. He rips it up in front of us and says, "Maggie, this isn't a real evaluation. You gave him all zeros. Your notes are incoherent, and in the recommendation section you told him to leave and never come back. This is not acceptable. I've worked with him more than you did. I'm going to write up the mid-season evaluation." Maggie breaks down in tears, playing the victim that the outsider is taking her job and she's protecting herself. The manager is not buying it, but she ultimately goes easier on her. Timber is cool, and I get a modest review with things to improve on. Right away, I knew this would happen again, and I'd need to make notes to defend myself. I have a reputation in the life-saving community I'd like to keep. Things got even more weird after this. Aside from umpteen mentions of calling me a rookie against my wishes, my notebook was getting filled with some highlights that include: she stole my rooster ketchup with a green top and lathered her hot dog only to get upset with me. She wrote me up for poisoning her with hot sauce. Though she really stole my sriracha, she took her top off in front of me and in full view of kids because she had to air out the girls. Went on a walking patrol down the beach for 2 hours only to end up hanging out with her friends, drinking on a beach and having a fire. Double no-no. Called her dealer to deliver joints to her while on guard. Not even discreetly. I taught the junior guard some basic stuff. Once the class was over, she goes up to the parents and tells him I taught all the wrong things and it's actually done this way instead. On a particularly bad day, she berated the middle-aged gentleman with Down syndrome who normally brings treats to her because he didn't bring any treats on this day. Things were cartoonishly stupid. Why would someone act this way? Turns out she was also bashing me to the other guards. They would regularly inform me of stuff like this. Hey, just so you know, Maggie told me you hit someone's car with a hammer. Obviously you didn't, but heads up, she's telling locals about it. What did I get myself into? This is ridiculous. My summer paradise at the most beautiful place on earth is ruined by a succubus leeching off of inner peace. I was at my end. This isn't worth it. I want to go home. I am belittled by an entitled brat and I don't need this as much as they need me. I am going to sleep it off and think with a clear head in the morning. Note, this place is a sleepy beach town. It is heavily wooded and not many cell towers, so reception isn't great. Also, it's a hot summer. I live alone, I hate pants. When I'm home, I'm probably naked. And a lock on a door isn't great. It works with a bit of effort, you can get past it. We basically put an exterior padlock on a door when we're away for extended periods. But hey, no one knows anyone's living here, right? Who's going to bother me in the middle of nowhere? 5:30 a.m. Bam bam bam. Huh? What's happening? Bam bam bam. Then the door opens. Answer the phone. I've been calling you all night. Why are you shirtless? That's gross. You have to work at the beach further away today. I've got an appointment. I've had scheduled for a month and can't change it. You need to go there or I won't be back in time. Wait, what's going on? Why is she in my house right now? I thought to myself as I startled and jumped up trying to wear my shirt. I raised my temper and got her out of my home as quickly as possible and said to myself, that's it, I am done. This isn't worth it. I call my district manager, tell him the rundown of what's been happening lately. Initially he thought I might be embellishing the truth a bit, but it's all so ridiculous. He tells me if I go to work, there is 2 weeks left in the contract, he will make sure Maggie and I don't work together anymore as long as I can stick around. Later on, I am begrudgingly working at the beach further away and we get a call. It's the district manager. Hey man, I owe you an apology. I thought you were making this stuff up. Maggie just called to report you for yelling at her. As she explained this, she admitted to walking into your home. What do you want to do about this? I tell him, district manager, which beach captain or alternate has worked with Maggie the most this summer? Looks like it's you by a fair bit. Is she allowed to do my end of season evaluation? No, because of what she did with your mid-season. We've decided that I would do it personally again. Okay, who gets to do hers then? Well, you can guess where this ended up. As luck would have it, Maggie and I got to work together once more due to someone being sick. The whole time she's telling me, I'm going to make your reviews so bad, you're going to wish you never came here, rookie. At that point, I just smiled with a big grin. The summer may have its last on, but this will be the end of you, Maggie. Writing up Maggie's end-of-season evaluation was between the supervisor and I. The rest of the staff were unaware of this, so I used the final days talking with the staff. What's the weirdest thing Maggie did to you this summer? And here is the highlights. Stole the pity boy guard's car keys at the end of the day to keep him around because she was flirting with him. He had to go right to the hospital to visit his mom. Gradually, through the course of a day, she spiked the 16 guard's work water bottle with vodka. He'd never been drunk before and had to drive home. After hours, she went to a lifeguard girls' night out and skipped out on a bill. No, she wasn't invited again after that. I am composing her end-of-season evaluation. I am smart about it. I grade reasonably well with things to her credit she was good at. She improved her swimming skills, which is something after all. But everything else I avoid grading A1 as much as possible to avoid looking like I'm purposely out to get her. More than just grading, I'm providing written documentation to back this up. I've got my journal of hellish Maggie moments, my co-workers' experiences with her, and I've been smart enough to make copies of our notes from patrons with her mentioned. But the coup de grace, recommendations for next season. Recommended not to re-offer beach captain or alternate beach captain position next season. Recommended awarding scholarship to someone else in the service. Not long after this gets submitted, I get a call from the head boss/senior manager who wasn't been made privy to Maggie and I's situation. Hey, I've known you for a few years. I'm reading Maggie's end-of-season evaluation and there are some serious allegations here. Her family will likely rebuke this and make it a problem for my office. Not giving her the scholarship sounds harsh. Do you have any documentation to back up any of this? Do you really think she deserves this? Well, sir, that's ultimately up to you. Here are notes and times from the entire team. Feel free to call any of them. Here's a footage from my trail cam of her breaking into my home at 5:30 in the morning. Here's the contact information for the Down syndrome gentleman whom she berated. Here is the reports patrons have made about her. This is bad. Well, thanks for being so thorough with this. The epilogue. Well, word got to her she wouldn't be receiving her scholarship. Instead, it went on to an incredibly nice and hard worker in another district. Maggie's mom complained for a while about come from a ways taking all the jobs. But then she heard how Maggie treated the gentleman with Down syndrome. She may have been the town's princess, but that man was a salt of the earth and immune to any harsh treatment. Needless to say, Maggie didn't come to the AGM. The next year, I was knee-deep in my actual career and didn't re-enroll in the lifeguard service, but offered my services as a substitute. One of the guards I liked last year calls me to see if I can sub for them for a weekend. I decided I'll do it as long as Maggie isn't working. He laughs and says no, but she's on staff as a regular lifeguard. Well, Maggie wasn't working, but her cousin was. Oh, this can be good. Our first interaction was kind of amazing. Wait, are you X? She asks using my real name. Yes. I prepare myself for a day of harassment. Oh man, you're awesome. Maggie and her mom hate you. Maggie and her mom hate you. They are so mean, our family hates them. She's so entitled and makes us look bad. You're like a legend around here. Well, this is a change of pace from what I was expecting. We became friends over the course of the day and she explained to me that Maggie thought her scholarship was a sure thing. Her mom pulled strings for her to get it and it fell through, so she never saved any money for school. Maggie's plans of getting into nursing didn't work out. Maggie's mom took a lateral promotion in the life-saving world. That new position didn't last and she was laid off only to go back to her old pool as the assistant to the person who took over her job. She wasn't able to pull any more strings after that. Last time I checked, Maggie went to community college and took a less expensive continuing care attendant course with a plan of eventually jumping over to nursing when she saved some money. Unfortunately for her, the instructors weren't crazy about her better-than-you attitude, and she was kicked out of the course sometime in second year. Last time I saw her, she was working at the summer ice cream stand by the beach I visited on a lovely vacation to one of the most beautiful places in the world.